Hi, my name is Kristen. This is Kristen Craze Books. So I think a lot of us are starting to think about our 2022 reading, and I realized that so much of what I read in 2021 was new releases, frontlist titles, which is fantastic. I'm so lucky to have access to e-arcs, physical arcs, ALCs, mostly through my blog and now starting through my booktube channel and my Instagram as well. But that means I'm neglecting some of the backlist that I have on my physical TBR, and some of these have been on my shelves for years and I'm so interested in them. Some of them I think will become favorites, and I just kick myself all the time. Every time I look at these, I'm like, why aren't I reading these? It's because I'm not prioritizing them. So I figured if I did this video, maybe it will help me hold myself accountable, maybe not, but it's fun either way. I know a lot of people do these videos at the beginning of the year and then react to them at the end of the year, so maybe we'll do that. But I think having them all on this TBR cart might help me, so I can look at these and think, okay, these are the ones I want to read in 2022. And I think there's about 25 or 30 here, so definitely doable. Some of them are bigger because those are the books I tend to avoid, but I wanted to show them to you, get your opinions on them, and tell you why I'm still interested in them. And then I'm probably going to do an unhaul soon as well, because I came across some books when I was putting this cart together that I'm definitely no longer interested in reading. So we will start at the top. This is one that I might actually read in December because I'm supposed to read it for the Reindeer Readathon. One of the prompts was Blitzen, and it was a poll and I had to choose 3 books, and this is the one that got the most votes. I think I had over 100 votes and this book got 50% of the votes, and I should have known that when I picked it. And this is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, who I read The Night Circus and I didn't love it, so I've been reluctant to pick this up. But I do like whimsical writing. I actually wished that The Night Circus was more whimsical. I think people have said that about this, and maybe that's not why it's not as popular. So there's potential that I could love this, and I do have the audiobook from Libro FM, so maybe I'll get to this in December, but if not, I have to read this in 2022 or else it's shameful. Next is The Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline, which is the book that I am most upset at myself for not having read in 2021. I added this to my Goodreads TBR when the book deal was announced. So I've had this on my radar for ages. This cover is gorgeous. It won a Goodreads Choice Award. It's a lot of people's favorite book of the year. I really am kicking myself. If I really want to prioritize this one in January, that has to be read next year. Another one I'm kicking myself for because I love Chris Hadfield is The Apollo Murders, and this is sci-fi crime fiction, and I've heard great things about it. The same person who narrated Project Hail Mary, the audiobook, which is one of the greatest audiobooks ever. I forget who, is it Ray Porter, I believe? I'm gonna put their name here just so you know. I discovered that they also do the audiobook for The Apollo Murders, so that's high priority for me. And I just love sci-fi, I love Chris Hadfield, that's a good one. Here's one that I've been waiting for years because I loved All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. And the size of this one intimidates me, the content of this one intimidates me. I know it takes place in Constantinople and then many years later in a library, and it seems like there's a lot going on in here. I've heard great things from those who have read it, but I know it's going to be a commitment, but I do want to commit to it. This is Cloud Cuckoo Land, if I didn't say that earlier. And the chapters seem short. I also have the audiobook for this one, so Libro FM sent us that as well. So yeah, I really hope that I get the courage to read this. One of my goals for next year is to prioritize quality over quantity, so hopefully that one ends up happening. Then we have Detransition Baby by Tori Peters, and I didn't read as much literary fiction in 2021 as I normally do, so I want to get back to that. And Detransition Baby was longlisted for the Women's Prize. I've heard fantastic things about this. I know Jess from Jess Owens loved this book so much, and some others, so I really hope to get to this one. I am interested in the subject matter. I read the first chapter and I was intrigued by it. I even have a bookmark in here, so it's one of those books I really think I have to be in the mood for, but hopefully that mood strikes in 2022. This is one of the ones that I am most ashamed of. Does anybody remember Page Habit? They were a book box, and I think they actually sent me this, that they put tabs, the author put little post-it notes all throughout it with their thoughts and little background information, and this is signed by the author. I have a letter by the author in here, and it was such a great box, and then they just sort of disappeared out of nowhere. But this was one of their picks, and it is The Great Believers by Rebecca Mackay. And yeah, it says look inside for my annotations from the author. So I think that's incredible. I would love to read this and get all the annotations and all the thoughts from the author. And I know that this is about the AIDS epidemic in the 80s, and I think it's largely set in Chicago, and it got a lot of buzz when it came out, but it's been a few years. But yeah, I really need to get to that. I know this is going to be a unique reading experience with those annotations. Next is one that was definitely a cover buy for me. This was a bargain buy. Look at the spine on here, it's gorgeous. But I've heard incredible things about Meg Williser, and this is The Interestings. And to be honest with you, I know nothing about this one, but again, I believe it's literary fiction, so I have to be in the mood for it. I really want to get back into literary fiction. And this one has been staring at me for years because it's just so beautiful. I actually hear more about The Wife by this author, and I have seen that movie. But if you've read The Interestings, let me know if you thought it was a good one to start with Meg Williser, because I'm open to starting with something different, but this is definitely one I want to try. Okay, speaking of shameful books, I think this is the book that has been my physical TBR the longest, and if you are a follower of my blog, you know this. I've been saying every year I'm going to read this, so no promises, but it's American Gods by Neil Gaiman. I cannot believe I haven't read this. I'm gonna love this. I already know I love Neil Gaiman's writing, so that's not stopping me at all. The size of it maybe, but I like books about gods and retellings. This was published in 2001, and this is the 10th anniversary edition, which means I got this in 2011. So, and it's yellowed and everything, and I haven't read it yet. So yeah, and I know there's the show that I want to watch. Even the sound of it, it sounds old. This needs to happen. Here's an author I've been meaning to read from for years. Everybody tells me I'm gonna love all her work. I love historical fiction. I haven't read a lot of YA historical fiction, which makes this more interesting to me. And this is The Fountain of Silence by Ruta Sapatis. And I actually, my receipt's in here. So when did I buy this? Does it say? Okay, I bought this in February 2020, so right before the pandemic. So not that long ago, it just feels like a long time. And this is actually a signed copy. Let me show you the signature. Where is it in here? It says it's a signed copy. Oh yeah, right there. So there you go. And I know so many people love all her work. I think I have another book by her on this card as well, because I just have a feeling I'm gonna love all her stuff. And this is set in Madrid in the 1950s, so high hopes for that one. It's just, if you will notice, every book that I showed you so far is huge. And as I said, I want to prioritize quality over quantity. I'm going to focus on the big books that I've been putting off that I know I'm going to love. But the next one I have is a smaller book. It is the second book of the series, which leads me to another goal of mine, to complete more series, to focus more on series that I loved. This is Lost in a Good Book. This is by Jasper Fforde, and it's a Thursday Next novel. And the first book was called, why am I having something about, it's funny, I'm trying to think of what this first book in the series was called, and all I've got is The Thursday Murder Club stuck in my head because I just read that. You would think it would say on here. The first book was called The Eyre Affair. It was a book about Jane Eyre, and the main character in this, her name's Thursday Next, and she works for the literary department in the UK, and she's able to jump into stories and kind of change things. She kind of changes the ending of Jane Eyre in the first one, and I believe this one is Great Expectations. And there's quite a few books in the series. They're hard to find, but I've heard great things. I absolutely loved the first one, and I do think this is an underrated series. And who doesn't love a book about books? So that one I really need to get. This next book is one that I really want to get to in 2021 because I love the first book, and it is Jade War by Fonda Lee. And I know the size of this one stops me, but that's not their main reason. Fonda Lee is not afraid to go there. She crushed me in that first book. Oh my god. And I've heard it just gets even worse from there. And then the third book is the same way. So I just don't know that I'm emotionally ready for this, though I know I'm going to love it. I love Fonda Lee's writing. I'm so invested in this whole world. It's kind of a Godfather-esque where Jade plays a big role and lets you have powers, and one family has been the only one that can harvest jade for a long time, but now there's a bit of a turf war going on, and it's just incredible. So yeah, this has to happen. Here's another signed edition that I've had for a while. I think I got this in 2019, Christmas of 2019, and there it is, signed by Bianca Maris, and this is If You Want to Make God Laugh. And Bianca Maris's debut is a book that I really, really loved and that was called Hum If You Don't Know the Words. And many people have told me that this book is even better, so I bought it when I saw it was signed. I already know I love this author, don't know anything about it, but I do know that it was popular when it first came out. But it is more literary historical fiction, so again, not the genres I've been focusing on, but kind of where I want to get back into. Girl with a Louding Voice by Abby Doerr was such a popular book last year. So many of my bookish friends had this as their favorite book of the year. I was going to read it last year knowing it was going to be a favorite, but then I stopped myself. This is something I do and I don't know why, where books like this, many other on the shelf, I know we're going to be favorites and I save them, but what am I saving them for? It makes no sense, so I just need to get to it. I've heard it's written in such a fantastic way, and I just know it's going to be like an all-time favorite, and I don't know why I'm waiting. I'm putting off that experience for myself. It doesn't make any sense. I have a feeling I'm not the only one that does that though. And then this one was actually sent to me unsolicited by Penguin Canada, I believe, and this is the book Form and Emptiness by Ruta. Again, big book. But Ruta wrote A Tale for the Time Being, which I know is so popular and has been on my radar for a while. And this one, yeah, Random House Canada sent this to me. And this is a brilliantly innovative novel about loss, growing up, and our relationship with things. And I know we're following a young boy whose mom is a bit of a hoarder, there's grief going on, and then objects in their home start talking to him, and he spends a lot of time in the library because books whisper. And I think it just goes into some interesting places, and those who have read it have loved it, so we'll see about that one, but I do want to get to it. Here's another book that was sent to me by the publisher, and this is Three Sisters by Heather Morris. I think this is HarperCollins. Actually, The Tattooist of Auschwitz, which was Heather Morris's first book, was one of the first ARCs I ever received, so it's exciting to get a finished copy of this one in the mail. And this is another World War II novel following three sisters who promised their father that they would do everything they can to stay together, and they end up in Auschwitz. And I think it is based on a true story, yeah, based on a powerful true story of hope and survival. I think most of Heather Morris's books are, but I really have to be in the mood for a World War II fiction these days, but when I am, this is the one I'm going to reach for. And then here's the other Ruta Sapatis novel that I just need to read. I've had this for years, and this is Salt of the Sea. This is many people's favorite book of all time. People bawl their eyes out when they read this. Honestly, I don't know too much about it because I didn't want spoilers, because I know it's going to be crushing. My mom bought herself a copy of this and she wants to read it, so I have high hopes for this one. Maybe we'll buddy read it, and maybe this will be the first Ruta Sapatis I will read, and that will make me want to read everything by her. My mom does this thing every year for Christmas where she would have my cat give me a gift, but my cat has passed away. But this is the book that she bought me last year, and my cat was a calico, so that's so cute. And this is The Cat in the City by Nick Bradley, and I believe that this is set in Japan, so it's giving me the traveling cat chronicle vibes, and this just looks adorable. I think it'll be a harder book for me to read now, but I do want to get to it. It looks really, really cute. Any book with cats I'm into, especially if the cat's the narrator. That could go really wrong, but when it's right, it's right. Next is an ARC from St. Martin's Press, and this is the Christie Affair, and this comes out, I think, yeah, February 1st, I believe. It's in February sometime. And this is a story of Agatha Christie, which is fantastic. I'm already sold on this. And if you were aware, there was a time when she found out that her husband was having an affair, and she went missing for 11 days. And this author, Nina de Gramont, imagines what Agatha Christie was up to in those 11 days. So I think this has the potential to be really, really fantastic, and I am curious about that time in Agatha Christie's life, and I know other people are fascinated by that as well. Here's another ARC I know people are going to be mad at me for not having read yet, and this is Dark Rise by C.S. Paquette, and this is one that HTC Frenzy sent me after I attended their event. And this author, C.S. Paquette, wrote the Captive Prince series, I think it's called. I know people loved that. So this is probably one that would be a quick read, a fun read, something different for me. So I do want to prioritize this one and let you all know what I think. A good out of my comfort zone kind of read. I have always had a fascination with Marilyn Monroe. We were both born on June 1st. I just think she was an interesting woman. She was treated so poorly, and I just love her. So I have never read anything by Joyce Carol Oates, but I do want to try some of her work. I have something else by her somewhere as well. But Blonde is the one that instantly caught my attention. And I remember having a conversation with Hunter on Instagram He's Shelf by Shelf on Instagram because he's a Joyce Carol Oates fan, and I asked him which one to start with, and this is the one he recommended, so I grabbed it. Again, this is huge. It is 600 pages and the writing is small, so this will be a commitment for me, but I know I'm gonna love this. I love Marilyn Monroe. Then the last on the shelf is a fun one. It's a romance. This is Hanukkah Carries On by Uzma Jalaluddin. Uzma Jalaluddin wrote Aisha at Last, which I read in 2021 and loved. I read it, I think, in February, and that was this author's debut, and it's a Pride and Prejudice retelling, and this one is being compared to You Got Mail. So that's all you need to tell me to know I'm gonna love this. I also love the cover, and it's set in Toronto, another thing that makes me want to read a book, so I have high hopes for this one. Now we're on the bottom shelf. Excuse all this messy candles I got going on here. I never know where to store my candles. And here's another one that I think has potential to be a favorite, but I've just never picked it up. And this is the Booker Prize winner of 2019. That feels like yesterday, but it's a couple of years ago now. This is Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. And this is supposed to be absolutely beautiful. Again, it's more literary fiction. It's a bigger book, but this is something that I need to prioritize. And just, my gut is telling me it's going to be fantastic and I'm going to love it. This is Shameful Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. I think this could be my favorite book of all time. Like, there's something about this that I just know I'm gonna love. Big book, historical fiction, but everybody loves this, and I think it's a sweeping family saga, which is just my jam. So why haven't I read this? I don't know. This video, putting this cart together, I was so ashamed of myself. So yes, has to happen. And I think I've been saying that. If you're a blog follower, I've been saying that for years since it came out. This is one that came out this year, so don't feel so bad, but it's My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones, and I did read the first chapter. Really liked it. I already know I love Stephen Graham Jones. I know this gets mixed reviews, but I have a good feeling about it. It's like an ode to the slasher film. I think if I go into it with the right expectations, I could really love this. So maybe a good one to read in October. I bought this book this summer and I meant to read it in the fall, but my reading in the fall was just a mess. So this is Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler, who I've never read from. I have yet to read Kindred, but I know I'm gonna love this one. And I feel like a lot of people have been picking up this book in particular this year, which I think is interesting. So we will see, but it would be nice to dive into this one and then maybe explore more of the author's backlist. Here's one I'm in the middle of, The Night Watchman. I got to page 80 and I was loving it, but then my cat passed away. I put this down, so I haven't picked it up again. But Louise Erdrich is an author who I know I'm gonna love. So many of her books are on my TBR. She's always recommended to me. I really want to read The Sentence, so hopefully I get to this one first. Heather O'Neill is one of my favorite authors. She wrote one of my favorite books of all time, The Lonely Hearts Hotel, and I believe this is her debut, Lullabies for Little Criminals. It's set in Montreal. I started reading it. It was beautiful. How far did I get? Only 20 pages, but already it was crushing me and I wasn't in the mood for it. I think I started to read this during the lockdown and I was just not emotionally prepared for how heartbreaking this is. But I would like to return to it. I love Heather O'Neill's writing, and the way that she writes her characters is immaculate. Here's another one I've been saying I want to read for years, and the sequel just came out, and this is The Golem and the Jinni by Helene Wecker. I read the first chapter for a try a chapter tag, and it was beautiful. This is gonna be super atmospheric. It's actually one I would like to get to in January, February, because it gives me such wintry vibes. So hopefully I can do that, but I've been saying that for a while. But I know I'm gonna love this, and so many people do. Okay, we got 4 more. The first one is The Library at Mount Char, and this is by Scott Hawkins. One of my first videos was a 5-star predictions, and this was on there. Haven't touched it. Even though I know I'm gonna love it. It's gonna be the kind of weird that I like. I like really weird books, and I think this one's gonna fit right and perfectly into my wheelhouse. So why haven't I read it? No idea. I would like to do an update on that video, but I have to actually read the books to do that. And then I have Beloved by Toni Morrison, another one I'm shameful for not having read yet, but I did just pick up this copy this year, and high priority for me for sure. A Place for Us is another one that I started during lockdown. I got 50 pages in, thought it was beautiful, but just too much for me at the time. A great family saga. I feel similar about this one as I do to Pachinko, that I think it'll be an all-time favorite. I just need to sit down and really take my time with it. So it's A Place for Us by Fatima Fareen Mirza. And wasn't this Sarah Jessica Parker's imprint? Yeah, is this the only book she ever did? But yeah, I've heard great things. It's supposed to be really, really good. And the last one is one that I think I'm going to do a read-along for on BookTube, and this is A Natural History of Dragons, a memoir by Lady Trent, but it's actually fiction, and this is by Marie Brennan. And I've had this on my physical shelves for years and years. I'm just so intrigued by the idea that it's supposed to sound like nonfiction, but it's a fiction novel as if dragons were real. So I think it's going to be really good. I've heard incredible things, and I think there are 3 or 4 books in this series. So that's definitely happening this year. Finally, I've had this for such a long time, so I'm so thrilled about that. And I love that BookTube has forced me to pick up books that I've had on my radar for a while. So that is it. I'm surrounded by a ton of books right now, so I have to put these all back in the cart. And I would love to know your thoughts on any of these, if you think I'm gonna like them, if you do something similar where you have a list of books that you want to get throughout the year. I'd love to hear about that. So thank you so much for watching, for subscribing, for liking the video. You guys have really supported me a lot this year, and it means a lot. So I will talk to you again soon. Bye for now.